Hello and welcome to Kendra's Card Challenge Pink and Main Hop. All of the designers in today's hop will be creating cards using Pink and Main products. And Pink and Main is our sponsor today. So I'm just going to show you some of the surprises that Pink and Main sent me. So I received the Winter Woods card panels. I also received this die set, and I am going to list all of the names of the dies and stamp sets and everything that I received in the description below, and I'll link to the Pink and Main shop so you can check those out. So I'm going to push all of this to the side so I can show you what all I received. I also received this sentiment set. It's a die set that spells warm wishes when you cut it out. And so I went ahead and put that together so you could kind of see what that looks like. I also received the Winter Greetings stamp set. So I've gone ahead and stamped out some of the images and colored those in. And so the dies also came with it. So I've used my dies to cut out all of those pieces. And then here is the stamp set. I really love it. It has all of these little woodland creatures on it. So I think that's a lot of fun to use those, because you can use those all year long. But I love to use the little woodland themes in the wintertime, not just for Christmas, but even in January. So today I'm going to be doing sketch number 7. And so I'm going to use one of the card panels here. You get 4 panels in one pack. And so it's hard to decide which panel to use. They all are so beautiful. So I'm going to start out with this panel today. And for sketch number 7, you need to have the little square panels on the front here. So I'm going to change this sketch up a little bit. You can see in the sketch that there is a banner going across the top or across the middle with 3 little circles. I'm not going to use that today, but I am going to just use my woodland creatures instead. So let's go ahead and get started on the card. So first, for the square that goes on the front there that you can see on the sketch that is white, I want to do a bit of inking on it so that I can kind of match the background of my card panel. So I'm just going to go in and add a little bit of blue, and then I'm just going to add in some orange and pinks so that it really blends in with the card panel. So I want to tell you a little bit about today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Pink and Main, and Pink and Main is a super sponsor, which means that they provide products to us to share with you and to create cards with you using some of those products, but they also provide products or some sort of giveaway for Kendra's Card Challenge. So be sure to download Kendra's Card Challenge and enter the giveaway by creating your cards, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. But more about Pink and Main. So Pink and Main is an online shop that has all kinds of card making supplies. They have dies and stamps and paper. Be sure to check those out. I will link to them below. We really appreciate you supporting our super sponsors. They have really been a big part of Kendra's Card Challenge. So Kendra's Card Challenge, if you're new to it, I know if you're watching, most of you have heard about Kendra's Card Challenge. And so hopefully you can endure me explaining it again. So in my description, there will be links to all of this information is in my description, but there'll also be links to everything that I'm talking about. So Kendra's Card Challenge is a challenge where you create 15 cards using 6 6x6 sheets of paper. So the PDF that you download for free has all of the instructions on it has the cutting guide to cut your 6x6 paper. It also has the 15 card sketches with measurements so that you can put those cards together. And just like I'm doing today, it's a great resource to have in your craft room, because just like I'm doing today, I am just creating a couple of cards using the sketches instead of all 15 from 6 6x6 sheets of paper. And you can do that as well. Now, you can't enter the challenge doing that, but you can do that as well, just to have a resource in your room. Now, I'm going to stop on that for just a second. I'm showing you here on camera that how I add sponges to the bottom of my archival inks. So you don't want to mix your archival ink sponges with your oxide sponges and different sponges like that. So I like to add a little Velcro to the bottom of my ink pad and then add my sponges, so that way I can keep them with the correct ink. Okay, sorry for that interruption, but I didn't want you to miss why I was showing you those foam and the bottom of my ink pads. Okay, so with Kendra's Card Challenge, if you decide to enter, you will need to create all 15 cards, and then you'll take a photo of all 15 cards in one picture. And then in the PDF, there is a link that will tell you where to go to upload your picture so that you are entered into the giveaway. And so there's lots of prizes from our super sponsors and from Kendra in these giveaways. All of the giveaways are from Kendra, so you will have to watch her videos to see when she does the giveaways, and you'll have to follow her channel to see who wins the giveaways. And there's also a Facebook group that you can join in, all the fun of sharing your pictures and everyone just seeing everybody's work that they're creating on. It's a lot of fun to see how everybody interprets the sketches and the decorations that they add. So for your cards, you really need to be sure that you follow the sketches, but then you are free to add as many embellishments as you want to add. Okay, so I'm getting back to my card now. So what I'm doing is I want it to look like a snowy scene. So I'm adding a few splatters to my animals as well. I added the inking to this background piece, but I also added some white splatters to look like snow. And so now I just added a little bit more white splatters to my animals so that it looks like there's snow on them. And then I've gone ahead, I stamped the image on this background, but I wasn't happy with how it looked. I felt like it kind of got lost in the background. So I went ahead and re-stamped it on a piece of white paper and made a little banner out of that paper. And I'll add that banner over top of the wording so that I can cover up the mistake that I made. And so I think that just looks a little bit better on there than just the stamping. And so for this card, I'm just going to be using the little deer. I thought this deer was absolutely adorable. You'll probably see me using this deer more times this season in different projects. I thought it was so cute. And then I'm going to use this little tree stump, which I thought was wonderful, to set the little rabbit on. But you could set the squirrel or the bird or the rabbit. Any of these little animals could be sitting on the tree base. And then I'm just going to add the little fox, and then I'll add the little rabbit in. So I think that is a cute little scene on this. And I think that looks so good together. I think that card panel is so beautiful. I really hated to cover up part of the panel, but I wanted to use it this way, and I really love how it turned out. So now I'm just going to move on to sketch number 3. So now I'm just going to, once again, ink the white piece that's on the front of this card. I'm just going to add some inking to it, and what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to match the background scene again. I want the colors to blend, so you can see there in the sky of this background piece, there is a lot of orange and yellow. So I'm just trying to ink with orange and yellow to kind of blend with that look. And then at the bottom there is some gray blue. So I'm going to lightly bring in my blue ink and just ink around the bottom to mimic that card panel. So I did decide, because there is so much gray in the bottom of that panel, I did decide to bring in a little bit of black ink and just lightly add that black ink to add in some of that gray, just to kind of match the bottom of the panel. So then I'm just going to bring my yellow back over that to brighten it up a bit. So now for my background, I'm going to be using another one of the Winter Woods card panels, and I'm going to use that for the pieces that, there's 4 different pieces that go in this background. So what I'm really focusing on is making sure that I keep the right pieces together, the strips together, so that when I put all of this onto my card, the scene is all put back together. And you'll see in a moment what I'm talking about. So I've cut it into 2 strips so that I can cut those strips down in order to make sure that everything lines up again when I go to put my card together. So once I get through cutting, I will test it to make sure that I did keep everything together correctly so that everything lines up again and makes the whole picture. So as you can see here, I made sure that I cut my paper down so that once I put it back together like this, it is still a scene. So once I get done with that, now I'm going to put my card together. But on the card sketch, I don't know what you call that, but the piece had the little corners clipped out of them. And there's dies that you can buy for that. But I forgot when I was creating this card that I actually have a new die that can do that. So instead, since I didn't think I had the die yet, I went ahead and just used my hole punch and just punched just nipped out the corners there so I can make that design. So here's the thing, if you don't have a die cutting machine or you don't have dies, just look at something and think about how you could alter it so that it matches. You know, how can you create it without having those supplies? Because sometimes we can't afford all of the supplies. So if you can't, just take a look at it, and there's always some way, a creative way that you can make it work. So that's what I did for this one. And so now I'm just going to add that to the front. So you can see I've gone ahead and glued the squares and rectangles on so that I had the whole scene back together again, but just cut apart. And you can see the wood, not the wood, but the craft paper behind it as the lines. It kind of, to me, looks like you're looking through a window now. So I really liked how it turned out. So I'm going to add the bear and owl to this one. Now I added snow to both of these as well. And I stamped the sentiment on this one as well. But I decided I didn't like the sentiment stamped on the piece. So once again, I stamped it out onto a piece of white paper, and I'm just going to add that right in here under this bear, and I'll cover up the stamping that I didn't like. And so I was saying that I had added snow to the bear and the owl, but in the end, you'll see, when you see the card in the end, I decided, after I let it set aside to dry, I decided to change that out, and I just added another bear and another owl on top of those two that didn't have the snow on them. I decided for this one, I really didn't like the snow being on the animals. I liked it for the first card, but it just didn't feel right on this card. So now I'm just bringing in some white enamel accents from Ranger, and I will list that below and link to that below. And I'm just going to add those to my card front as well, kind of mimicking like it is snow. At first, I'm adding them around the bear and owl, but then I decided to go ahead and add them on the background card panel as well. And so I'm just going to add them in random places all around, almost like splatters, but when they dry, they'll have just like they'll be raised a little bit, and I really like how they looked. So I will need to set this aside to dry, and I'll probably just let it dry overnight, and then I'll come back and add it to a white card base. So here is my completed cards. I hope that you've enjoyed seeing me create these cards. I hope that you will hop along to all of the other designers in today's hop. There is a link in my description to a playlist of all the other designers. So if you click that link, you can play all of those videos, and be sure to check out what they're creating today. And so I really love how these turned out. And you can see here where I decided to change the bear and owl to not have the snow on them. And I think that was a good choice. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye.